So this week, lesson of the week for Monday Morning Mojo is actually quite simple. Some of this you've actually heard before, and yet what I wanted to do was revisit some terms that I think can help you perform at a higher level, whether we're talking about in your personal life, your professional life, whatever. But these are really important terms that many of you have heard before from me, but I think it's worth revisiting. And so I'm going to share my screen here so that you can see these. Some of these are made up terms, meaning I endowed myself with the ability to make up and define my own terms. Others are not made up. But here's the first one, and this is called metacognition. Metacognition. Now, this is not a made up phrase from Jordan. But metacognition is the awareness and understanding of one's thought processes, the awareness and understanding of one's thought processes. So all of you know that by the time you're 35, 95% of your thoughts, feelings, and actions happen at the level of your programming, meaning they happen at a habitual level. Each and every person is born with an algorithm. It's like a learning-based software that makes up the thought processes of you. And that process or that software is always seeking to automate things and drop them below your level of consciousness so that it can conserve energy and solve problems faster. And yet, the more understanding you have around your thoughts, the better understanding you have around how you feel, ultimately how you act, and the results that you get. When I was at Modern Men, I had the opportunity to hang out with my good friend Craig Goodliff, who is the founder and CEO of Cyberbacker. And we were at breakfast and he said, you know, each and every day I look at my next day and I ask myself, what type of day is this? Is this a day that I'm going to have to be on stage? Is this a day where I'm creating systems? Is this a day that's more relaxing or one that isn't going to require the same cognitive level or the same cognitive load as others? So he kind of themes out and creates different types of days in his weeks and in his months. And then he asks himself a really great question. What's the state that I need to show up with tomorrow? What's the state I need to show up with tomorrow? And he said, ultimately, he's learned that he can only control three things. He can control how he thinks, he can control how he feels, and he can control what he does. And his goal is to master those three levels, what he thinks, what he feels, and what he does. And all of that mastery happens inside of this concept, metacognition. So the lesson I want you to take from that is, one, are you aware of your thought processes? Are you bringing them from your unconscious and into your conscious? Number two is that I think all of you, just like Craig, have types of days. There are some days that are maybe a little bit more of a cognitive load. They're going to require more energy, more effort. Others that may be a little bit more relaxed, and that even might be on your weekends or your days off. But what's the state that you need to show up with inside of your days? And then lastly, let's get really good at mastering those three things: how you think, what you feel, and then how you act. Get really focused on those three things. And I think if you really boil it down, and I've said this before, I think that in this world, you have about a yoga mat's worth of control, that what you can fit inside of a yoga mat, is all that you control in this world. And those three things, I have beat my head against the wall thinking, is there anything else that I really control other than what I think, what I feel, and how I act? And I don't think that there is. And so I would really invite you to master this concept of metacognition with those different approaches in mind. The next one here is called environmental indifference. Now, environmental indifference is a term that I did make up, and it's a lack of belief or concern that environment plays a significant role in one's success. There is a language pattern that I continuously hear throughout my coaching, and that is, I'll be so glad when. I'll be so glad when the market goes back to normal. I'll be so glad when interest rates go down. All of those things will make your life easier. I completely understand that. And yet For the best of the best, they understand that the environment actually does not dictate your level of success, you do. And if you go back to metacognition, how you think, how you feel, and how you act, then you understand that none of those things are actually driven through the environment, the market, the economy, what the government is doing. And if you look at what is available to you in regards to whether it's closed units, volume, GCI, if you just look in your local market and take your goal, and you could do this just through the first 4 months, January through April, and look inside of your market at how many closed units have actually occurred in the portion of the market that you work in, and then divide that number into your goal. So if you had a goal to close 20 units and there have been 300 closed units, that would tell you how much market share you would have needed. And most of you, I can promise you this, you're overestimating how much of the market you ultimately need. And that overestimation causes a mindset of scarcity. There are no listings. Buyers aren't going under contract. All of that is bullshit. None of that is actually true if you just stick to the facts. So becoming environmentally indifferent means that the environment plays no role in your level of success, that ultimately the things that you control do, and we're going to keep ourselves in an abundant mindset, not through like airy-fairy spiritual terms, through the logistics and the facts of the market. Just look at how much you actually need. And you've heard me say this before, you think you need a big piece of a small pie, and you don't. You need a very small piece of a big pie. So environmental indifference. The next one is agency. Agency, not in the regards of how you think about buyer or seller agency, but agency, and this is not a made up word by me, is the degree of control you feel you have over your decisions, behaviors, and emotional states. The operative phrase in there is degree of control. See, if you think about how much control you have over your decisions, behaviors, and emotional states, you could kind of rate and rank this. Like if I'm a 10, then that means that I am absolutely the master of my decisions, behaviors, and emotional states. If I'm a 0, it feels like life is the puppeteer and I am the puppet. And so what I'm going to encourage you to do is to rate and rank your degree of control that you have over your decisions, behaviors, and emotional states, 0 to 10. Where are you? And what is it that you could be doing that could start inching that degree of control up? I talked about this in a speech I did last Friday, and that is that I think one of the key skills to becoming a self-master is your ability to make and keep promises to yourself. If you want to increase the degree of control you have over your decisions, behaviors, and emotional states, start making little bitty promises to yourself that come hell or high water, you don't break. But the people who possess high degree of agency over themselves, confidence follows agency. And so the more you can get into this relationship where you have high degrees of control, the better off you'll be in the short run or the short term and in the long run. Next one is fear fluency. This is a made up phrase by me. This is the ability to interpret the messages fear is giving you in a manner that positively enhances your life. One of the great discoveries I've made in coaching myself and others is that fear is often more of a friend than it is a foe. So a friend in the sense that fear is your guardian angel texting you messages about what you should be paying attention to. Fear fluency, though, is if you think about how fear shows up in our lives, fear shows up typically in what if questions, right? So what if I am not able to hit my goal? What if, the real estate market or we head into a recession? All of these are really great questions. The problem is that we don't take the time to slow down and actually write the questions out. And I'm going to say this slowly because I know it is 100% true. A thought that originates in fear, left unexpressed in the imagination of a human being, can become toxic. A thought that originates in fear, left in the imagination of a human being, left unexpressed, can become toxic. So you have this guardian angel texting you these questions like, what if we head into a hardcore recession? That's a really great question. So rather than allowing that to just bounce around inside of your imagination station, let's get it out, write the question down, and then use a little bit of thinking time to answer it. And then lastly, you could take that and convert it even into a more empowering question like, how could we use, if a recession does ultimately settle in, how could we use that to our advantage? You know, Kate Conroy posted this a few weeks ago, and the question is, what opportunity is born because another one has died? What opportunity is born because another one has died? So this idea of fear fluency and really understanding the messages that fear is trying to convey to you, and looking at fear as not as, you know, an enemy, looking at it as a friend, something that is ultimately telling you what to pay attention to, completely changes the relationship that you have to that emotion, and can help you navigate life's most difficult circumstances. So there you go. There are 3 or 4 different, you know, concepts, ideas, things that I would invite you to start practicing. Everything from metacognition to environmental indifference, to agency, and ultimately fear fluency. And just take a look at how you're doing with each and every one of these things. And the idea is just to provide you perspective and concepts that can help you perform, not just at a higher level, but with a different level of understanding. So I trust that this is helpful. I trust that you will practice all of this. And I can't wait to see all of you on our expert interview with Tyler Kuhn, the short-term agent, on May 24th from 2:30 to 3:30 Central. Make sure you sign up for that. And I will see you, each and every one of you, back here, same time and place next Monday. Make it a great week, you guys. Bye-bye.